Hi everybody, and a very warm welcome. Deb Meehan here from Papillon Coaching and Mentoring, your catalyst to career transformation. And today I've got the absolute pleasure of interviewing a really lovely lady called Lynette Allen. Lynette is the creator and founder of an organisation called Her Invitation. So let me just tell you a little bit about Lynette. She is a coach, a speaker, author and a broadcaster, and she's got unrivaled experience in developing executive women all over the world and has undertaken some amazing research that means that her program is unique and is why companies are really seeking it out, especially those companies that have got an interest in gender diversity and are taking it really seriously, which is, a breath of fresh air. So her clients include worldwide leaders, big names such as Procter & Gamble, BG Group, and as well as some other UK power networks, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. She's also an authority on developing women for leadership, and Lynette's programs enable women to understand how to take charge of their own careers, which is really, really important, and then be able to move upwards in their work environment. So she's got, if you know Lynette, you'll know this, but she's got a really engaging and insightful approach which provides solutions to some issues that just tend to come up time and time again, especially with women in leadership, and they just repeat themselves in business. And I see it in the work I do, and I know Lynette does in hers as well. So what Her Invitation does, it addresses those issues head on, and it delivers, from an organisational perspective, improved productivity, loyalty and performance. And it allows women to confidently then excel in what they do and rise to the top of their game. And I think it's really important that we look at this topic in terms of both what's good for the organisation as well as, how it benefits women. So Lynette's also an author of 4 books, if that wasn't enough. So she's got 3 self-help books and a coaching textbook. It's the first book to be written that specifically focuses on how to specialise in coaching women. And it's interesting, really, because the research that she's done for how to coach a woman just totally correlates with her lifelong passion and hobby for understanding the challenges that women face and how to create the environments that they need so that they can really feel free to thrive. And I love those 3 words, free to thrive. How amazing would that be if everybody felt really comfortable and able to do what they wanted to do in their work environment? Lynette's books have been translated into 4 languages, so they're available worldwide. They're available in bookshops and on Amazon. So when we finish this, if you're interested, head over and have a look for those. If that's not enough, she's also a seasoned broadcaster and a regular contributor to radio. So she's the voice of several corporate business campaigns, and her success has been featured in a number of glossy women's magazines and business publications. So, welcome, Lynette. Great to talk to you again.
Hello. I've been a bit busy, haven't I?
You have been a bit busy.
You read it all out like that.
I know. I think sometimes, we just get on with life and we don't actually realise the kind of achievements that we're making as we go along. And specifically as women, I think we always focus on the things that we haven't got done.
Yeah, totally. I do that all the time.
So, perhaps it's just worth me saying for people listening, and for those of you that don't know, that I've actually interviewed Lynette before, about 3 years ago now, and we've kept in touch on Facebook and that kind of thing. And we decided that because Her Invitation has grown and expanded in that time, that this would be a really good opportunity to catch up, find out what's been going on, and also be able to tell a lot of other people what's been going on too. So, as you'll already have gathered, Lynette is a really amazingly inspirational lady. I know she's going to say, no, but she is. And she's really passionate about helping women. And I think that's where she and I hit it off originally, because it's my passion too. So I work with women in business and corporates as well. So we're really engaged in this in the same way. And the key to this is to help women to fulfil their potential. But it's not just in the workplace, it's also in the at home, because I truly believe that you can't separate the two, they're inextricably linked. But Lynette has this amazing vision of getting her message out to 1,000 women as quickly as possible. And as such, to do that, what she's looking to do is to expand her team of entrepreneurial facilitators to help as many people get to where they want to be as quickly as possible. And one of the things that really struck me when I was talking to Lynette was that she says, and it's actually on her website as well, that she does this not because it's a business, but because it's a calling. And, you know, that's what drives her forward, and that's what makes her as good as she is. And I suppose that leads me nicely into the topic that we're going to be discussing today around entrepreneurship, because, you know, whilst we hear a lot from Sheryl Sandberg about leaning in, some women are actually looking to lean out too. They might just want to broaden their interests, have a bit of a portfolio career, or whatever it might be. But that's what we're going to talk about. And we've got this great heading, which is The Powerful Woman's Guide to Finding and Inspiring Your Tribe. So 5 secrets to authentic entrepreneurship. Excuse me, we were talking about frogs in our throats. There we go. So before we get into those 5 secrets, Lynette, can you just bring us up to date with what you've been doing since we last spoke?
Well, I think what happened since we last spoke, I was about 4 years ago. In fact, when I listened to the interview the other day, my daughter was, I think, about 10 months old, and she's now nearly 4.
Oh my God!
So
when did that happen?
Time just trots on, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing is that I have licensed my company, and I've now trained 28 women to be able to deliver these workshops and do what I've been able to do to help reach as many women as possible. And I think that's what today is all about, is about sort of finding and inspiring your tribe, because everybody has a group of people who would identify with their thoughts and their vision and their passion in life. And I think if you are able to really sort of get that message out, then you will find people who follow you. And that's one of the most important things, I think, in growing a business and being an authentic entrepreneur, for many, many reasons. So really, the company's grown hugely, and we have a much bigger reach. It's now not me on my own anymore. And I also, if you remember from last time, I work part-time, which I still do. We homeschool our daughter, so we're not going to get to the point where she's like in September off to school and I go back to work full-time.
Wow.
That's not going to happen.
That's really interesting.
And I really wanted to continue my work. I've always wanted to do that since having Livy. I wanted to be a mum and to spend a quality time with her, but I also wanted to maintain my business. I've worked 16 odd years at it now, and I wanted that work to continue.
Yeah,
so
and I think gone are the days, aren't they, really, when you have to give up your job to look after your children and, cook tea for your husband and all that.
I think so, yeah. I mean, for me, it doesn't work like that, you see, because for me, I've got a husband who also went part-time. So we changed our life completely in order to co-parent Livy together. But it is strange, and workplaces aren't set up for that at the moment. They're not set up for people to go, for parents, in quotes, to go part-time to both look after their children. But I would love it. I would love to see it working that way. I think we manage it because we run our own business. But the world isn't set up like that, and I think people do think it's quite strange. I know when certainly my husband talks to people, and they say, it's obvious that he has his daughter on certain days, they assume that we're divorced.
Yeah, that's useful, isn't it?
It's really strange. And then the penny dropped for him the other month, and he thought, oh, you think I'm divorced? No, I just look after my daughter half the time. And they go, how does that work? Well, I don't know. I'm the dad.
It's a cultural thing, though, isn't it? It's the way life has just, people have done it before, and so we're changing paradigms and dynamics, and that change takes time to come through, which is a real shame, because we could really do to fast forward considerably and get on to that. But I think we are moving in that direction.
But I think we're living the equality that I talk about all the time. I talk about equality all the damn time. All the time. I talk about it everywhere I go, because I'm so passionate about wanting men and women to have equality in this world. And when women don't have equality, which we clearly don't, men also don't have equality. And I feel very strongly about that too.
Yeah. No, so, I agree completely.
We are living it.
Yeah, well, that's great. You're a true role model for everybody out there, and really you can say, well, look, I'm not just saying, I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm not just preaching this, I'm walking my talk,
I'm
actually living it. So that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, look, as I mentioned in my intro, I know that you perceive what you do as a calling rather than as a business. And it's really true that if we are lucky enough to find the thing that we are totally passionate about, and if you like, the thing that we were put on this earth to do, then it no longer becomes a chore. It isn't difficult to get up in the morning, and it truly is a joy to do the work. And I know that you feel that, and I feel that. And I completely get where you're coming from. But I just wonder, can you expand a bit more on that so that people listening understand exactly what it is you mean by a calling?
Oh, well, for me it's a big thing. I have to do this. I have to talk. I have to be a voice for women, and I feel like I have to be a voice for equality. I mean, when I started off 16 years ago, I didn't know this. I wasn't, I'm 43 this year, so I don't know how old I was then, but, mid-20s or something. I didn't wake up and go, I think this is my calling. What I realised was, from being probably in my early 20s, is that I had always managed to change my life when I got to the point where it no longer satisfied me, or I thought, I don't want to be doing this anymore. This doesn't feel good anymore, and it used to, but it doesn't anymore. And I've changed my career in the country I've lived in, and my boyfriend of choice at the time, and all sorts of things in, really massive, big changes. And I just thought that everybody did that. And it became apparent that they didn't do that. And most people would live with things that they weren't completely happy about, but just, well, that's how life is. And I never did that. So when I first became a coach, I realised that's what coaching was about, first of all. And I thought, this is a job. Just what I do naturally. This is a job. And it became apparent it was a job. And then when I very first started coaching, people were saying to me, well, who do you want to coach? And I really had no idea. I just thought, well, everybody, as I think most coaches start out doing. And then I did this exercise where you have to cut pictures out of a magazine. I did it with a lady called Gabriella Goddard, and she was wonderful, and she introduced me to the concept of cutting out pictures in a magazine to put a mood board together. So I did that to help me kind of ascertain where I might be drawn to coaching, and it was basically women. It just became apparent that it was me identifying with women and the struggles that we have, because we have so many multiple roles, and we are wives and mothers and daughters and best friends and aunties, and we try and carry out multiple roles and multiple tasks, and it sometimes feels very overwhelming. So when I did that, that's how I started off coaching women, and that was 16 years ago now, as I said. And over those years, it's become more and more important to me. The more women I've coached, the more I've written, the more I've been interviewed, the more I've spoken to. I've coached thousands now, I presume, in that time. And all the research for the books that I've done, and I've made TV documentaries about it, and all sorts of things. And it has just become my life's work, actually, and it is my calling. I feel like, I wouldn't want to do anything else. Certainly when Livy was, we were pregnant with Livy, I had the option to, how do you want to do this? Do you want to give up work? Do you want to be a full-time mum? And I just couldn't see myself putting this all down to be a voice for women, especially when, we found out we were having a girl as well. It became really important, and I have a stepdaughter who I refer to as my own, and she's the most awesome, beautiful woman in many ways, and I now have a granddaughter as well, so I'm surrounded by girls, and I really want the world to be different for them. It's not been hard for me, actually, but it has been hard for many, many women of my generation, and certainly previous generations. So this, for me, is a proper calling. I had the opportunity to talk about, running a campsite with my husband, not so long ago. We could just up everything and move to this field and run a campsite. And we went to the field, and I saw the field, and I stood in the field, and I said, it's a lovely field. Yeah. But I can't do this. Where am I going to work from? How's the internet? It's like looking at me like, well, that might be the point, just to not do anything else. No, I actually burst into tears.
Oh, bless.
Tears ran down my face, and I can't do anything else. It is a calling. Yeah. I have to be a voice for women because I feel it's so damn important. Yeah. So this is my business of, I still have to go to Tesco. Yeah. But this is the reason I get up in the morning, and it is so important to me.
Yeah. So would you say then that, as the first secret that comes out is really it's about finding what your passion is?
Yeah.
And
definitely.
Then finding how you're going to do it.
Yeah. So I think it's really finding a way to connect with what do you want to do? Because everybody, actually, Oprah Winfrey talks a lot about this, and I listen to her ad infinitum. So if you've ever listened to anything, she has a will in the world to help everybody connect with what they're here to do. And I love listening to her, especially if, things go wrong or if it hasn't gone according to plan, because I reconnect again and remember why I'm doing this, why I speak about this all the time. And it's about finding your why. If you didn't have to bring money in, what would you choose to do with your time? What do you talk about? What's your passion? What do you get heated about over the dinner table at dinner parties? What is it that really revs you up? Because if you can do that, if you can find that, and I don't know that everybody knows what they want to do, and I don't think we're brought up asking those kinds of questions.
In fact, I think there's a lot of people that are brought up and are actually herded into doing something that is what somebody else thinks that they should be doing, not what is truly passionate for them. And it was interesting. My son's now 21, and one of his friends at school was an absolutely brilliant kind of scientist. So all the sciences were just for him, and his family wanted him to be a doctor. But he wanted to be an actor. He really wanted to do drama. Yeah. He wasn't that good at it, but his passion was to do that. And, it's really interesting. Have you seen the film Eddie the Eagle?
No, I haven't.
It talks about that all the way through. That's a perfect example of somebody who, from a very young age, knew that they wanted to be an Olympian, and went through all the trials and tribulations to actually get there. So, and it's a fun film, but it just struck me then that what we're talking about is exactly what he did.
Yeah. And I think I read somewhere the other day that you should ask children not what they want to do in the world, but what problem they would like to solve.
Yeah, brilliant.
And I loved that. And I hope I remember that when Liv is a bit older.
Yeah. I'm sure you will.
But it's about finding your why. Why are you here? And then once you've got that nugget, and I think it could change from decade to decade, mine hasn't, but I think people maybe could change. It's probably a useful exercise to keep thinking about. But then find out how you're going to do it. And for me, it was always about using my voice. My mum always said I spoke too much, and now I speak too much for a living. So, and I'm also an ex-performer. So I used to be a ballet dancer, and
right.
a singer.
You've got that performing in your blood.
Yeah, kind of. And I still get to perform by being on stage and giving speeches and talking on radio and doing interviews and standing up in front of people. And I actually used to terrify me. I was a dancer dancing in front of 1,000 people at night at one point.
Wow.
Yet the thought of speaking to a group of 50 women at one point made me want to cry.
I know. Been there.
But I got myself over that, and now I can do it very well without worrying.
But it's like everything, isn't it? Once you've faced your fear and you've moved through that barrier, then it actually becomes a lot easier and very pleasurable. And I think speaking to people is one of those things. There's a great book called And Death Came Third. I don't know if you've heard about it. And it's basically based on the fact that people are more scared about standing up in front of a group of people and speaking, or walking into a room full of people they don't know, than dying.
Yeah, my husband is an ex-hypnotherapist, and he once had a client who faked a fit in front of an audience rather than speak to them. That's fear.
Extreme. That's extreme.
Yeah. So yes, going back to the first thing, my first secret, I think, to authentic entrepreneurship is about that why, and then find your how. How are you going to do that? Through what medium are you going to talk to people to find your tribe and inspire your tribe? Where do they live? I seem to live mostly on Facebook. That's how I tend to inspire and find my tribe.
Yeah.
But, there's lots of different ways of doing that. I think it's working out what works for you, and then, of course, is actually doing it. You have to be out there, which will lead you into the next 4 secrets. Yeah.
So let's presume now that people have got their why and they've kind of thought about how they're going to do it as well. What comes next? What are the next steps that they need to take?
Number 2 for me, the second secret to authentic entrepreneurship for me is be all in. Okay. And for me, what that means is be it, think it, feel it, do it, live it. Be what it is you say is important to you. I've come across lots of people in my time, lots of entrepreneurs, who say that they're passionate about X, Y, or Z. And you go on their Facebook profile and it doesn't even show what they're passionate about. Or you look on Twitter or you try and Google them and you would have no idea what it is that they do or what their passion is. They're not living it. They're not talking about it. Obviously for me, I think with my rant for equality and female empowerment, I actually do that all the time. I do live it. I have set up my life around it, and I like to. I talk about those issues that are important to me all the time. So be all in means actually immerse yourself in it, so that when somebody looks at you, whether you're talking at a networking event or whether you're on being interviewed or whether you're I talk about this at weddings and all sorts of things. I collared a guy at a wedding who said to me, "What do you do?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, don't get me started. This is a wedding. You don't want to know." "And how do you know the groom?" "Yeah, we had a business together." And I just thought, you're just taking me down a place that you don't know how passionate I am. Yeah. This is a wedding.
You don't know you're going to be here in 60 minutes' time, and I'm still going to talk to you about
I'm not sure you want to start this conversation, because I know where it's going to go, right? Because I just okay, you want it, you got it. And he did get it.
Good. Did he enjoy it?
And he learned that he was a feminist that day. He didn't even know that he was a feminist. He said, "It's interesting that you call yourself a feminist because I think you believe in equality." Yeah. Well, do you know what? That's what feminism is. Well done. Yeah. I think you're also one too.
Yes.
He's like, "I didn't know that." We high-fived at the table.
Yeah.
I said, "Hey, you learned something today." So, be all in. Just, for goodness sake, talk about it. Show the world what you're passionate about. And then, when you do that, you will naturally, people gravitate to you. Mm-hmm. I think when you walk about the planet and you feel passionate about something and you talk about it and you show people and you read things about it and you read, articles about it and flick them on Facebook and put a little comment on it. I talk about a lot of Facebook because I'm in there all the time. But it's whatever medium you choose, I think you have to be all in. And then those people that are going to get you, because not everybody gets me, believe it or not. Not everybody likes Lynette Allen, I'm sure. But you have to find and then inspire your tribe. And you only do that by being out there.
Yeah.
That's my second one.
Okay. So we've now got 3 parts. So, excuse me, or rather 2 parts. So what's the next step in
Number
this
3 is
process?
Speak up and turn up.
Yeah.
So I think it probably follows on really nicely from being all in. But, number 3, speak up. If there's a conversation in which you disagree, I think many women are a bit too polite sometimes. This is what we've found in our research and through talking to our hundreds of clients, is that, we're not really taught to be very outspoken. That's not really meant to be very ladylike. And I know so many women who have, stood in a group, for instance, and they've had a conversation and they've sort of been party to it by the very fact that they stood there listening in. And they don't disagree with it, outwardly. They're thinking, really? Are you sure? And I just think, speak up. And I don't think you have to be aggressive. I think that's where we sometimes think, well, I don't want to disagree, I don't want to offend anybody, everybody's entitled to their views, and absolutely they are. But I think there's a way of saying, I'm not sure I agree with that, From my perspective, this is what I find, this is what I feel, this is what I see. And then you're talking about a conversation rather than dominating your viewpoint. But speak up and turn up. And I think there's nothing like turning up in person somewhere. I don't always do that. I work from home, and home at the moment is 2.5 hours away from London in the deepest depths of Suffolk. And it does seem a very long way from anywhere at times. But I think to turn up, to be present, to go out to places and to be visible in those environments. And I think that's the next third one, because, we can all connect online, but I've done an awful lot of it in the past, where you just have to turn up, be visible, go to places, shake people's hands, look at people in the eye, get a coffee with somebody, because you're much more authentic, I think, most of the time if you are face-to-face with somebody. And I certainly like meeting people face-to-face, even though I live in the outskirts of nowhere.
Yeah, no, definitely it is. And I think, I talked about in the introduction about these things that come up time and time again, these same issues and challenges for women. And I think the way that we are culturally kind of moulded is probably around that, well, don't be rude and don't be aggressive. And so women in particular don't tend to always say what they think. And it kind of bubbles under the surface a little bit, which, one, isn't very healthy because it causes a lot of stress. But 2, then they then aren't able to have that voice that, you've so brilliantly found. And I think it's a fantastic piece of advice to say, do it in your own authentic way. Yeah. Talk about authentic entrepreneurship, but, say what you've got to say because it's worth listening to. And I think sometimes people think it's not, well, it's just what I think, it's not really worth sharing it. And actually, so is. You've got to share what you believe.
Yeah, and I think when we are, we are in a time where we have the power to use our voice. We can use our voice in person, but we can use it online. And I don't think there's ever been a time, surely, before where we have managed to influence so many people from so many different countries to have our opinion. That means writing blogs. It means doing interviews like this. It means doing podcasts. It means standing up in front of an audience. But, there was a homeschool thing I read about I can't remember what the topic was now, but I do remember the lady was in New Zealand and she was writing a blog. And I took her advice and I did something that she suggested with Livy, and it was so good. It worked a treat. And I thought, that's so interesting, because like my mum didn't have access to that.
No.
When I was little, you know, she had a book from the hospital when I was born about the first 3 months, and after that there was no parenting advice at all. It was like any book that was published, and probably outdated advice. But I'm now hearing from someone in New Zealand, for instance, excuse me, and she's impacted my parenting style, my thoughts in England and Suffolk.
Yeah.
And she won't even know. No. And that's the interesting thing. You don't even know who you're impacting, because I didn't go back to her and say, hey, thanks for that. I tried that. Yeah. I probably should have done, but I didn't. Yeah. So how many people are influencing?
People these days, isn't it? Virtually touch them, I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so.
And we don't even know. And most people don't tell us when, you know, they've used something of ours, because, you know, the world is very busy.
But, you know, Lynette, I know you'll have experienced this. I certainly have. When somebody does take the time to say, thank you, you know, you've actually changed my life, it's the most rewarding thing on earth. Money can't buy the feeling that you get from actually having helped somebody to do what it is they want to do, or just something you've said has really resonated with them. They've had that light bulb moment and they've gone, aha, that's what I need to be doing, or that's what I should say, or, you know, that's where I need to go, or that's the person that I need to speak to.
With the workshops that we run, because we do get them to fill out a little feedback sheet at the end about what they've learned, and it's really incredible. We have lists and lists and lists of quotes from people saying things like, one lady said, I didn't realise I had any power until today.
How amazing is that?
You know, these are big statements. You know, I saw myself as a working mum. Now I see myself as senior leadership material.
Fantastic.
You know, that is in one day, and obviously there's a lot of work to carry on from that, but suddenly to get a different perspective from somebody and for them to have a light bulb moment, that's incredible, and that's what drives us and my facilitators to carry on doing what we're doing, is because this stuff is so real.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's incredible, and it needs to happen.
So people are speaking up, so we've hit that phase of the process. Yep. So where do they go from there?
Number 4, the fourth secret to authentic entrepreneurship is testing yourself.
Okay.
And this is where it gets really tricky, because the last 2 very much encapsulate being vulnerable. Yeah. And I've been reading a lot of Brené Brown recently about vulnerability, and I love her. I also love Elizabeth Gilbert, and her and Elizabeth seem to be very good friends. So when I was listening to Liz's podcast, she mentioned Brené Brown, and now I'm all over her, so to speak. So she talks about authenticity a lot and vulnerability, and the first one is very much about, the fourth one, is very much about vulnerability. Test yourself, because if you have truly a passion in this world, you will put yourself out there and you will overcome the things that stop you or prevent you or make you feel shy. So, for instance, there was something on Facebook that said Mother Teresa didn't think about the size of her thighs. She had a job to do in the world. Yeah. You know, so she didn't think about the photos that were being taken of her to market actually what she was doing in the world. She had a job to do. Mm-hmm. I think we can criticize ourselves and feel so vulnerable about our miscomings, any miscomings we may have, and I think we all have them, that we would stop ourselves being seen, and we need to do the opposite. We need to test ourselves. So find something scary, whether it's doing a podcast, whether it's speaking on radio, whether it's turning up to a networking event. Test yourself and go and do it, because it only takes a couple of times of doing it before you get over yourself. Yet your message has been able to be put forward in another medium. test yourself is a big one for me.
And, it is incredible that I can think of lots of examples of this, but I was at a networking event not so long ago, and there was a young lad there, and the person that was going to finish off the event and summarise and that had gone AWOL, and I just turned to him and said, well, you're going to have to do it, and he kind of just went pale like a ghost and went, I can't do it. I can't. I said, no, go on, all you have to say are these 3 things. And he goes, no, and you could see it almost was going to run out the door. And I said, come on, you can do this. Just take a big, deep breath. And he did it, and he was brilliant at it. And at the end I said, how is that? And he went, God, that was really good. I'm so proud of myself. And it is just the feeling of going through those little things, those scary things, and coming out the other end. Can just be incredible.
That's right. And, I've had to test myself. I've been asked to do things that, freaked me out and scared the life out of me. And I've actually done them, and done them very, very well. And I think when you're authentic, and if you start those conversations by saying, I've never done this before, actually, you get people's support. But if the topic of what you're trying to put forward is strong enough, you will do it, because you're not doing it for you. You're not doing it for ego. You're doing it for the women who need to hear this message, or whatever your calling is. It might be, animal cruelty, or, whatever it is that you feel like you need to share with the world. That message is too damn important to then think, well, I won't share that video because I look like I've got a bit of a double chin.
Yeah.
What, really? So that was okay then, that the message did not get spread because you had a double chin. I just can't think. But, this is so important. And I think if you've really got your why at the very beginning, then testing yourself becomes a little bit more like a calling rather than I am putting myself on show.
Yeah.
And I think that's how it's got to work, really.
It's almost about, it's not about you, is it? It's about what you're trying to achieve.
It's not ever
you're just the vehicle to make it happen. Yeah.
Because there are other people that will think like you.
Yeah.
And not everybody will, and you might get challenged, and you might get people saying, I don't agree, you're wrong. You know what? No one's going to agree with everybody all the time. No. And actually I had somebody say that, it's when people start disagreeing with you, you've actually made it. Because your voice is out there and people are starting to listen, and if they disagree with you, then actually they've heard you. I think, yeah, totally. And I think it's really scary. So when I first wrote a book, I'm on the front cover of all of them, but I was on the front cover of the first one. And I'd never been on the front cover of a book before, and I went into a bookshop shyly thinking, oh my gosh, where is my book? And I'm looking down there, I was thinking, oh, it's there. And I'm looking at my book thinking, does that lady know that's me? I'm thinking, oh my gosh. And that's really scary. Having a book published, I thought, oh, what have you done? You've opened yourself up for criticism. Yeah. Everybody might not like what you say. Yeah, damn right they might not like what you say. But you know what? I don't care about them. No. I care about the people who are following me. You can't change the world unless you start to talk about it, though, can you? About what it is you're trying to change. So, not everybody agreed with Gandhi, but he made some amazing breakthroughs. So, yes, absolutely. And then the fifth secret to authentic entrepreneurship is, in my opinion, is let them in. Let them see you. And I mean, warts and all, really. Yeah. I think it's interesting. There used to be a time, even a decade ago, I think, where it was the thing to put a very glossy sheen on who we are as entrepreneurs. We've got life sewn up. We're doing really, really well. There's nothing that can touch us. We're at the top of our game. And, I think that's marketing speak, that's PR. Yeah. But I think it's important, and it has become more important, and certainly with the rise of social media, is that we are seen as people, as not perfect, as as having flaws, as having down days, as having the same problems as everybody else. And I think you have to be authentic and let them in. So by that, I mean showing something of yourself that says, I'm human, but I still believe in this. These are the struggles I've had, and this is why I've now come to this realization. Because then you're connecting with people on a completely different level, and they're not looking up at you like you're so far removed they can't possibly aspire to be you.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
And that's a bit scary as well, you know, letting people in when life isn't so good. But we all have, you know, real strong difficulties sometimes, and people dying on us, and relationships breaking down. And, you know, I think when you're going through an issue, certainly when my dad died about 9 years ago now, when I was going through that grief, I wouldn't have wanted to talk about it publicly. When I was going through my divorce, I wouldn't want to have spoken about that publicly. It's a very private thing. But I think when you come out the other side, there are lessons to be learned. And, you know, you went through shit, to be honest, to come out the other side. And I think
people are going through that, aren't they? So they, you know, actually they resonate with you because they understand. And it's great to see somebody that's been through it and got to the other side, and it actually gives people hope that they can get there too.
I think that's the inspirational bit.
Yeah.
If you want to inspire your tribe, then you have to be just like your tribe, rather than putting yourself on a pedestal. And you know what, being put on a pedestal, I have been put on a pedestal by people before, and I very quickly fall off. Yeah. And it devastates them. Don't do that.
Yeah. No.
Because, you know, everybody's normal. And nobody really should be put on a pedestal, I don't think. Everybody is the same.
Yeah, completely agree.
So I think those are my secrets, really. It's about
great tips.
Finding your why and then working out how. That's number one. Mm-hmm. Be all in. Just soak up whatever it is you're trying to put out into the world. Speak up and turn up. Test yourself and let them in. Brilliant
tips for people who are looking to set up their own business. You know, and I know as a self-employed person, somebody that has my own business, that getting new clients is one of the hardest things to do in business if you make it so. So these kind of tips, just be natural, be who you are, open up, let people see the real you. You know, just immerse yourself in it. It's all fabulous stuff.
I think when you've got an entrepreneur, particularly somebody who perhaps has is new to the world of entrepreneurship, they're going to want tools. They're going to want, you know, how many Facebook people do I have to reach in order to get one sale? How many, you know, what's the newsletter system like? And what's, you know, they're going to want tools to grab onto to use. Excuse me. But all of those tools will lie dormant, and you won't use them unless you have somewhere in you your why, unless you are all in, unless you speak up, unless you test yourself, unless you are see-through and authentic. I think there are so many tools, and you can go on all kinds of courses to get those tools. We give an awful lot to our facilitators when they're training. There's an awful lot of opportunity for them to be seen and stuff that they can use, tools to get their word out there, experts we put them in touch with, talks we have, telephone conversations with experts, all sorts of things. But I think with anybody, that's the rudimentary stuff. And I think it's your attitude that you lay over the top of that either means that's used really, really well, or it doesn't get used to its full potential.
Yeah, it's actually implementing, isn't it? It's taking action that's the key. And that's where sometimes we fall down because we let all that other stuff get in our way about, I'm not sure, I'm not sure people want to hear what I've got to say. And we start to talk to ourselves in a very bad way. And it's the people who cut through that and go, I'm just going to do it anyway and see what happens.
Yeah. And I think it's a light-hearted attitude as well. I think it can be really stressful running your own business. You know, you give up a corporate job because of the stress, and then all of a sudden you don't have a paycheck coming in, and then that's another stress. And I think if you cripple yourself by thinking about, I need to get this, I need to get that, I haven't got this, I haven't got that, then you work in a panic mentality. And I think the art to being an entrepreneur is to be playful and joyful, and just love what you do and be relaxed about it. And it does come. Yeah.
No, it's true, and but it only comes if you put yourself out there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like I say, and you actually do start to take action and just do stuff. Just do it, as like you say, you know, just do it.
Things.
And it doesn't matter if it doesn't go to plan. It doesn't matter if people don't turn up to your workshops. If one person turns up, you can still give them everything you've got.
Yeah.
But if you're not there, you can't even touch that one person. So
I had listened to a TED talk the other day of a lady whose family, her 2 sons and her husband, wanted to ride their bikes from Alaska down to, I don't know, Argentina, I think it was, right? Ride their bikes down from Alaska to Argentina. That's a very long way. And she said she didn't want to do it, and she said, I am not doing it, I don't want to do it. And then she realised, she said that she was scared of failure. What if I have to come back? What if it doesn't work? What if something goes wrong? And then she said, well, if I didn't do it, I realised I had already failed. And that was a really interesting perspective for me. If she didn't do it, she's already failed. It never happened. She did do it, and it took her 3 years.
Wow, 3 years of your life to cycle.
Yeah.
She must have been fit as anything at the end of it.
Yeah, 3 years. Wow. But I think it really just goes to show that it's mindset.
Yeah.
And there's so many people in this world, really inspirational people who have done amazing things, you know, huge feats. And it's always, I think, when they're interviewed, there's clearly preparation and skill and technique, but mindset is the one.
Yeah.
And I think for any entrepreneur, if your head is in the right place, then I think you can really get your message out there and achieve great things.
Absolutely. Well, I'm conscious of time, and we've already touched a little bit on, you know, your work-life balance. Is there anything else that you want to add to people? Because I know it is a big thing for women, especially of a certain age, who have maybe got, you know, young children or teenage children, or maybe we've got aging parents and there's a commitment there. You know, have you got any more tips, just a quick tip on how to manage that elusive work-life balance that everybody
I think there's a question that I ask myself all the time, which is this still okay with me?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the most important question. Because, you know, what might have been okay 6 months ago, you might have agreed to something, or you might have taken something on because it worked, or it fitted, or your passion was there, or your energy was there. And then, of course, 6 months down the line, maybe something's happened, or something else is draining you, or another part of your life has fallen somewhere, or risen, or some other priority has come up. And I think you need to ask yourself constantly, is this still okay with me?
Yeah.
And I think if the answer is no, and consistently no, you know, not just like it's not okay with me today because today I'm not up for it, but consistently no, then I think that's the thing you need to take notice of, and then think about, well, what is it I would want instead?
Yeah.
So that's the second thing. If you don't want this, what do you want instead?
Yeah.
And I think that requires you to be honest, and I do that, you know. I get a blank piece of paper. I don't like lined paper. I like plain paper, because then I can draw in the middle of it. And I don't mean stick people. I mean words and mind maps. And, you know, if you want something else, what is it you want? And that would always be my guide, always. So that would be my last final tip.
Okay, brilliant. thanks for that. That, as ever, it's a totally inspirational conversation that we've had. So I've really enjoyed it. I hope everybody listening has as well.
Thank you.
Look, I know if you're interested in what Lynette does, there's plenty of information on her website, which is www.herinvitation.com. But, if anybody is interested in actually working with you or becoming a facilitator, if you've inspired them to actually think, this is my calling too, because it's all right to have the same calling.
Absolutely.
Then, what do they need to do?
Get in touch with me via Her Invitation. So there is a page on Her Invitation called Join Our Team, and you can read about what it means to be a Her Invitation facilitator and what's involved in the training. Our training is ongoing, so depending on when you might listen to this interview might depend on when the next training is. So I would probably go and have a look at the website and see what the updated training is. We tend to train in Suffolk in the UK for UK-based businesses at the moment, but our facilitators travel anywhere to be able to deliver this. We've gone to Dubai and Rome and Europe, Brussels, France. We've gone all over the place, and I might be delivering some in Spain this summer as well.
Wow,
so that'd be really exciting.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to understand what it is that we do more, then it's definitely the website, and think about becoming a facilitator. We want people who are passionate about this cause and who are entrepreneurial in their spirit, creative, and prepared to stand up and have their say.
Yeah.
That would be my tribe.
Okay, perfect. So just to finish off then, I know you've got a special offer coming up for 10 lucky people. It's an e-course that you're doing.
Yep.
Did you just want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we are currently in the process of putting together an e-course that will be launching hopefully at the end of the summer. And if anybody is interested in a free place on our e-course, then they would just have to email inspireher@herinvitation.com, just registering their interest, and I will pick 10 free people, 10 people to have 10 free places when it's launched at the end of the summer.
Brilliant. Okay, so a really special offer there for 10 people.
Right.
Brilliant. Well, look, we share the same passion. We do the same work, Lynette. It's been a pleasure spending time with you again. Let's not leave it another 4 years.
Gosh, you'll be 8. Don't go on. It's scary.
I'll be heading for retirement before too long if we keep going at that rate. Look, best of luck with what you're doing, with your vision, your goals. I know you won't need it, and that you'll definitely reach it. And I suppose that for me, all that remains for me to say is thank you to everybody for listening. I hope you found it really useful and interesting what we've talked about. And just go out there, have your voice, be who you want to be, and make a difference in the world. So from me, that's goodbye, and from Lynette too.
Goodbye. Thank you so much, Deb.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.